Hey, what's up guys? Pat here with another video. This is for cards you may have forgotten or overlooked in Colossal Warfare meta. It's been a while since I've done a slideshow video like this one, but I noticed that a lot of people are putting out their like top 5 Colossal Warfare cards and all those kind of reaction videos, like what they think about what the best or most underplayed cards are in the set. So I figured I would just kind of jump on that bandwagon, but with like a slight little twist, and just give you cards that I think that the community is once again overlooking because they're not thinking outside the box. If you guys remember from the first video I did on this channel, I'm a big advocate of trying to think of things that people are overlooking, and it's been a while since I've actually been as passionate about the game as I have been with Set 4. I originally had a lot of reservations with Colossal Warfare because the format's looking again to be another really fast format, and it still is too fast for my taste. However, instead of just one obvious broken deck, which is like a Shigesh deck, we at least now have 8 to 10 different viable options, which makes it for a much more enjoyable game, even if it is, again, a little bit too fast. So with that out of the way, let's go and jump into the red cards. Red actually has quite a number of cards compared to other colors this set that I feel like a lot of people have overlooked. First up is obviously these blockers, these free blockers. You'll notice this is a reoccurring theme with this format. Because there is basically a turn 2 kill in the format, you have to rethink how you build your decks in this format. You have to be playing some sort of free defense. And the cards you see on your screen, Vidal, Gohan's partner, Bodyguard Legic, and Dependable Robot Giro are all really good defensive tools because they're basically free. Obviously, Universe 7 Gohan is going to be a monster in this upcoming format because of his sheer amount of card draw, the fact that he has access to Vidal, Gohan's partner, as a free blocker that you can play at any time. And then on top of that, he's obviously a blue leader, so he can abuse Flute, which is arguably the best card in the game right now. It just creates so many degenerate strategies and just draws so many cards. So you definitely are going to need to have some kind of free defense or cheap defense in order to protect your life. Bodyguard Legic is a card that anybody can play, and Dependable Robot Giro is obviously something that you can play if you're playing either the Pan Leader or a GT based deck like the Trunks deck that uses SS4 Triple Flash. The Dash Pack Pan is essentially free in that deck, which means that Dependable Robot Giro is also free in that deck. So it is a defensive option you should consider when building those kinds of decks. Next up, we're going to talk about some of these negates that I see a lot of people not really talking about. Unending Awakening was really good, obviously, with Pan when it came out in Colossal Warfare. But Baby is actually another leader that's really, really good in this format. Red Green Baby is kind of like the anti-meta deck. It gets around a lot of the degenerate, or I should say strong strategies coming out the gate in Set 4 Colossal Warfare. Baby in general is actually quite good against the Hirudegarn deck because he can get around a lot of the effects in the taxing style version, the blue-green control version, and in the blue-red version, which is basically straight aggro. By aggroing him down, you give him a ton of free removal. So again, Baby's just really strong against Hirudegarn in general, and actually can put up quite a fight against the blue-yellow Storm decks with Bardock. So yeah, definitely do not sleep on it. On top of it, just having access to Unending Awakening on his backside once he's flipped, because he is a Saiyan, makes him just incredibly difficult to kill. So Baby is definitely a sleeper. I know he's getting some buzz. I know that Danny Hype is trying to play him, and I know that he actually does play Unending Awakening in his deck for good reason, and you guys probably should too. Next up is Time Kicker, which is a negate that I feel like it was largely overlooked from Tournament of Power. Its only real leaders you can use it with are Kale, who's not that good, but Caulifla is actually a pretty solid leader. Especially because of some of the cards we'll talk about in a second. There's just some red strategies, specifically Universe 6 and Veggies, that are really strong, and Caulifla benefits from those heavily. And the ability to blink a card out of play by negating can actually, depending on how it's used, completely dismantle someone's turn. If they try to do a greedy play early on where they attack you with a 1-drop Bardock, and then to try and get extra value before they swap it, if you time kicker it, it basically ends their entire line of play and penalizes them again by making them take an extra life. Veggies is also still not dead, so blinking a 2-drop green Caulifla can do quite a bit of damage to your opponent in the long term by disrupting their plays and forcing them to take a life that they otherwise might not have accounted for. And then just in general, anything you can do to stop your opponent's aggression early on is just super impactful. So, moving on to the veggies that we're talking about, as well as Caulifla. Kefla is a monster in this format. I have no idea why nobody is trying to play Kefla. I knew Kefla was a good card when I saw her, but I wasn't sure just how good she was until I played my friend Ryan this past week at a local and just witnessed firsthand how good Saiyan Onslaught Kefla is. So for those of you who do not know, she costs 5, but you can Union Patara her for 3 red, which is the goal. And she has deflect, so you can't crusher ball her, so she's going to attempt at least try and get in there for some damage, and you can't obviously Cold Bloodluster. And then she has dual attack. If you Union Patara her or attack, you draw a card, and then you get plus 5k for the duration of the turn. So by Union Pataring into Kefla, she's going to come down as a 30k and immediately replace herself in your hand, so you're going to already plus 0, and you're going to get at least 2 attacks in, unless it gets Mafuba'd or, Gohan Awakening, then just discard it off the board. So you're essentially drawing 3 cards the turn this girl comes into play, and she starts as a 30 as the first card attack to block, then a 35 and a 40, and it ends up being very reminiscent of the green Ultra Instinct Goku from Tournament of Power. Although obviously you're not getting cards out of your opponent's hand, it's just a big beater that just can keep going and going and going, and you're just going to draw a lot of cards. And if you already untap with Kefla in play, and then a Union Patara into her again at some point with other cheap pieces like the 1-drop Vanilla Caulifla and Dauntless Kale, and just have multiple of them in play, you're just going to bury your opponent in card advantage, because you're just going to keep drawing cards, and they're just going to have to keep expending tons of cards to block her. Dauntless Kale is also really good. Obviously, we knew this from Turn of Power format, courtesy of Anthony Hernandez and other people who are playing it at ARG Atlantic City. Another free blocker. So yeah, Veggies definitely not dead. I encourage you to still play your Veggies deck, skew them a little bit more towards red, and probably use this 1-drop Caulifla in place of, say, intensifying Trunks. You can obviously still play Newfound Power Son Gohan to help self-awaken you, but I feel like playing both of them is overkill. And playing this 1-drop Caulifla as just a decent beater early on, and the ability to sneak into play a Kefla relatively cheap, just really fantastic. But if you're playing SS3, it's very possible to turn 1 play a Caulifla and a Dauntless Kale and still keep an energy up to protect your life. And if they somehow both live to the next turn, you can just easily go into Saiyan Onslaught Kefla on turn 2 and start applying a lot of pressure, and just spend your energy protecting your Kefla and your life, and you'll pretty much just lock the game down and win. So with that out of the way, moving on to blue cards. First up is a leader from set 1, a golden oldie, Beerus. I think Beerus might have a spot in this meta. I always feel like Beerus has a spot in a meta where it's dominated by aggressive bodies that are 3 or less. Veggies obviously is still not a dead thing, and the current trend in decks right now is to play a lot of 1 and 2 drops that try to either evolve into the 4-drop Bardock, or just try to close the game out with combo cards such as Furthering Destruction, Champa, Unyielding, Spirit Trunks, Unbreakable Son Goku. Just go in for face as fast as possible. Intensifying Power Trunks, Saiyan Kaba, and Newfound Power Gohan. Those are all just cards that are being played and abused with Flute, and it feels like nobody's playing win cons that cost more than 3 energy right now, other than 8 base decks. So Beerus, I feel like he has inherent value there, especially since he is in the color that allows him to kind of get the ball rolling. He does have access to objection, so on turn 2 you have the ability to start killing guys every time he swings, and then he has a number of other great cards he can play, such as Flute, Unyielding, Spirit Trunks, and Sensu Bean. These are all just great combo cards that let him keep untapping energy and protect his life total as much as possible. Speaking of protecting life as much as possible, a card I feel like is largely goes in and out of favor all the time in this game is Ultimate Judgment Jocko. Ultimate Judgment Jocko is really, really good in this format. I know that a lot of people always forget that he exists or feel like he doesn't do a lot. Even I feel that way sometimes, but he is a really strong sideboard in this current metagame. A lot of people that are playing the blue-yellow Bardock Storm decks are trying to combo the Ape Bardock into play so that they can make their 1-drop Bardock a 4-drop Ape Bardock on turn 1 or turn 2 and then apply a lot of damage. If you were to bounce the Bardock back to their hand with Ultimate Judgment Jocko, it's not going to evolve, and again, just like how we were saying with Time Kicker earlier on, it's going to end their line of play unexpectedly. We're anticipating that it was just going to go through, and they were going to just be able to continue their aggressive line of play. Anytime you can do something like that to disrupt your opponent's aggressive strategy, puts you one step further to winning. If you are able to weather the storm for the first 2 or 3 turns against most of these aggressive decks, then it's pretty simple to win. And you'll see a lot of the higher level players talk about how they like this format because it's a turn 6 or turn 7 format, and that so far has proven to be the case for me. I feel like once you weather these aggro decks past the first 2 or 3 turns, then the real game begins, and if you're playing against an aggressive deck that doesn't have a plan B after you weather the storm, you'll just win instantly, whereas the other decks have a way to kill you very quickly and then also have a plan B where if both players weather the storm, then it becomes a war of attrition with their finishers, their selected finishers. So moving on, we have Mysterious Presence Manaka. I know a lot of people are talking about the new Tapion because you can draw 2 cards, help you self-awaken, and then put a card back on top of your deck, which synergizes really well with Hirudegarn. That said, there is already a card that exists that puts a card on top of the deck, which is Manaka, and obviously you can't have any battle cards in play when you play him, but I find that the Controlier Hirudegarn variants, they already aren't really playing any battle cards in the first couple of turns of the game because they're just trying to protect their life and ramp until they can get their hand control online. Obviously, great flute target as well. It's obviously not going to be better than Tapion 100% of the time, but again, in this format, it is very easy to die quickly, so taking 2 life may unexpectedly put you in a spot where you are just going to end up dying. So I encourage you, if you are finding that that is the case and you're trying to play one of these slower control-y blue decks, give Manaka a shot. Again, it's not going to be for everybody, but I do feel like he does have some merit in this format, especially, like I said, I find myself not really playing any battle cards in the first 2 to 3 turns of the game when I'm playing a slower deck. Except for obviously the combo into play cards such as Raging Spirit Sun Gohan. I find that I'm pretty much just trying to really spend my energy to remove my opponent's threats and protect their life. Moving on, we have At All Costs Vegeta and Oath's Power Trunks. We already talked about it a little bit before, where if you weather the storm, you're gonna have a select finisher that tries to finish off your opponent. And I think these are 2 blue cards that are highly, highly underrated. At All Costs Vegeta is effectively a 3 cost that draws a card. He's a 3 cost 20k that draws a card and stands at energy. In a deck like Hirudegarn that already wants to be at 4 energy ASAP, it's very easy to drop this guy on turn 3 without tapping out and leaving up, say, a green for full power energy or blue for Whis' Coercion or some kind of defensive trick, and still have a solid, sturdy body that can either pressure an ape or be able to pressure the life total. Granted, it is only single strike, but if he somehow sticks around and your life is in pretty good shape once you have 5 or more energy, you can just snap take 2, and so obviously you're going to just plus on card advantage there, and then he's just going to be a big body with triple strike for the turn that's going to mandate an answer right then and there, or otherwise they're just going to lose on the spot. Really strong finisher. Very surprised that this card's only about 75 cents to $1 at the time of this video's recording. I think he's one of the better supers in the entire set and is incredibly slept on. Really outstanding finisher if you can just, again, get to a situation where they're at 3 or less life, you somehow weathered the storm and got into 5 or more energy, you can just kind of go all in with him and just kill your opponent. Oath's Power Trunks is especially a strong finisher also in this format. Obviously you need to be playing Tapion, which is already a solid card, like I said. Again, it depends on preference, but he has double strike and barrier when you have Tapion in your drop or warp. and then at the end of your turn you switch him to active mode. So this card is just going to turn sideways every turn, and unless your opponent chain Zenos you, there is no commonly played answer to this card. So again, just like we were talking before, you're just going to, like we were talking about with Kefla, you're just going to pressure your opponent with this mid-range finisher and just protect your life. You only need one Oath's Power Trunks in play to win the game, because there isn't really any way they can stop it. So you're just going to pressure with your one, maybe two Trunks if you can somehow sneak another one in there, and then just use the rest of your energy to protect your life, and eventually you'll get there and just get the W. Really good card. I always felt that Indomitable Spirit Son Goku was a very strong card. It was super underplayed. Oath's Power Trunks is just a better version of that. He comes out much cheaper. Granted, he's 5k less, but again, much cheaper, much easier condition to activate. And starting on turn 3 with SS3, you can easily just drop this card basically on turn 3 and just pressure. And you could just, again, keep dropping another one every single turn, because you're going to untap 3 at the end of each turn to keep your life safe. Just great finishers all around. Really would like to see more people play these cards. Next up is Results of Training Son Gohan. What a monster of a finisher for Universe 7 Gohan decks. I don't see too many people play this card as a finisher. Again, just like we've been talking about with the Vegeta and the Trunks previously, it's not going to really shine until you manage to get past the first 3 or 4 turns. But when you play this card, it's very easy to win the game if you're still holding a clutch of unyielding Spirit Trunkses and Senzu Beans to be able to untap. Just for those of you guys who don't know, you're going to just evolve this over Universe 7 Son Gohan Adolescence, and then he's just going to get triple strike and just flood the board out with 3 more Universe 7 guys, which, you know, you could play any number of guys, but most importantly, you can play these 3 Gohans, which all these cards are very good cards. You should be familiar with them. Focus Mind Son Gohan is going to tutor up more threats. The longer he's in play, he's also just a barrier beater. You have Burst Attack Son Gohan, which is the new hype card. Has critical. It's going to draw you a lot of extra cards. And then in the starter deck, Indomitable Link Son Gohan is going to come into play and destroy something. So how this is basically going to work is you're going to drop one of these 3 guys throughout the game early on, and use them to either remove threats, search threats, or just draw you more cards and pressure your opponent's life total safely. And then eventually you're just going to evolve one of these into the Results of Training Son Gohan, and then just drop out 3 more, attack with 2 of them, and then on the third one that you chose not to attack with, you can basically amongst those attacks, you use things like Senzu Beans, Unyielding Spirit Trunkses, untap the 4 energy you used to play the original Results of Training Son Gohan, and then just evolve the third Gohan into another Results of Training Son Gohan, which is actually quite easy to do when you consider how many cards Universe 7 Gohan draws. So yeah, you're just going to be able to, on turn 4 or 5, when you get to that 5 energy spike, if you've been, you know, protecting your life total and not frivolously wasting your extra energy resources, it's very possible to get somewhere between the realm of 4 to 12 attacks with just nothing but just Gohan battle cards, and it adds up really quick. The burst attacks on Gohans just let you keep digging for more ways to extend the play, and the Results of Training Son Gohans just they're just insane triple strike finishers, and obviously the Indomitable Link Son Gohan is just going to pave the way and remove those pesky free blockers that are just going to let you go through for the game. So yeah, really strong finisher. Really would like to see more people pick this up, especially since U7 Gohan is considered a very strong leader, but I feel like most people don't really understand the reason why, aside from him just being good value. This is just a really powerful finishing combo that more people really should be playing.